Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. At the request of netizens, I have presented the painting process as completely as possible. If you have any ideas or suggestions, you are welcome to leave a message. Thank you. Before I start painting, I usually analyze the colors of the picture first. I will consider laying down the basic colors for the picture. For example, there are 4 colors for the roof and 3 colors for the flowers and leaves on the roof, because the colors of the flower bushes on the left are different from those on the right. When laying down the base colors, don't think too much about color variations and details. Just focus on the general direction. The details will be added later. Now we should focus on the size of the house and its position in the picture, the proportion between the roof and the wall, and also where to start drawing the ground. I forgot to put the palette in the camera shot during the previous base color laying process. Fortunately, there were very few colors used in the previous part. For the basic color of the roof, I will directly use yellow ochre, and for the darker parts, burnt sienna can be used. For the trees in the adjacent background, I'll just dot on some green to indicate them. Since the green color of the background on the left side leans towards yellow, I added a little lemon yellow. Considering that the flower cluster on the left has a bit of a yellowish tint, I also dotted a few strokes. It doesn't need to be very precise when painting these small pink flowers. Just roughly mark their positions. The advantage of using a spray bottle is that you don't have to worry about painting too slowly. As long as you find that the paper surface is dry, you can spray water immediately. When painting these flowers and plants in the front, I will consider which parts can be omitted, because the theme of this painting is the house, and the plants are just embellishments. When painting a door, pay attention that it is located slightly to the right of the halfway point, from left to right on the white wall. If you are not confident in painting it accurately, it's better to position it a bit more to the right, because there is only a flower basket on the right wall, while on the left there is a large window, so leave enough space to paint the window. Now let's paint the shady part of the leaves on the roof. It's a warmish green color. You can mix viridian green with a little burnt sienna or burnt umber. If you think it's not green enough, you can likewise add a little ultramarine blue. You can also adjust the shade of the color by adding or reducing the amount of water. Try to use the wet painting method in the initial color application stage, so that the effect of outlining with the waterproof pen next will be very good. Since the purpose of applying the base color is just to determine the approximate position of the object you want to paint, of course, the more accurate you can paint it, the better. Then, when you outline the lines, you will identify the specific position of the object again. The texture of this paper is too rough, and the outlining pen doesn't flow smoothly either. The part of drawing the outline and outlining the lines is quite easy, because the positions of all the structures can be basically seen clearly through the colors laid down previously. You just need to add details and draw according to your own preferred style. When drawing these lines, don't make them too straight or too smooth. If you find it a bit difficult to draw a straight line, or your hand shakes a little while drawing, then I have to congratulate you, because that's exactly the effect we want. Let the lines you draw look a bit crooked and not too straight, and it would be even better if there are some variations. At this time, just relax, as this is not an exam. You're expressing yourself through the pen in your hand. Beginners may initially worry that they can't draw well. In fact, if you draw a few more lines, your work won't be ruined because of that. Instead, it will add a sense of relaxation. When drawing horizontal lines, try to make them look continuous. Otherwise, it will look uncomfortable. Remember to leave some space for the flowers, or the lines of the flowers will look messy when they overlap. Of course, you can also draw the lines in a connected way. I don't draw continuous lines because I think it's easier to draw that way, especially when you're not sure about the shape and position. When drawing the windows, I still try my best to make them symmetrical, although most of the time I end up drawing one larger and the other smaller. You don't have to draw the window exactly the same as in the reference picture. You just need to draw it as a window. The pens with a thickness of 0.3 millimeters and those with a thickness of 0.4 millimeters may not have much difference, but there is a noticeable distinction between a 0.3 millimeter pen and a 0.5 millimeter one. However, when it comes to the thickness of the pen, it still depends on personal preference. I've been using a 0.3 millimeter pen before, and now I'm changing to a 0.5 millimeter brown outlining pen. If you can draw a straight line on the first try, it doesn't matter if you draw several times. The overlapping lines can make the picture look more relaxed. You may be troubled by the numerous details in the reference picture. In fact, we can choose to keep them up decisively and draw the main structure first. If you're not confident in accurately drawing the size and shape of this flower basket at one go, you can first mark several points and then connect these points. You can selectively draw the details. For example, those parts that you like very much and can make the picture look more interesting. There are many details on the chimney that need to be drawn with a thinner pen. So I'm switching to a 0.3 millimeter fine liner now. Drawing a chimney involves the issue of perspective, which will not be elaborated in detail here. It's inconvenient to explain because the picture is too small. In the future, it will be specifically explained in combination with appropriate videos. Even if the chimney is not drawn exactly 100% according to the reference picture, it is also acceptable to draw it according to your own ideas. Since this is your personal work, it should be a good thing to give your work a stronger personal touch and make it more recognizable. Enjoying the lines on the roof, make them have some variations instead of drawing a very smooth straight line. If there aren't any significant changes in the lines of the reference picture, you can create some variations or magnify the tiny changes you have observed. Now let's start drawing the small windows on the roof. First, draw the shading structure on the top. You can also add or subtract the details of the window structure according to your own preferences, as long as it looks pleasing to you. You can also use the method of setting fixed points when drawing this small window. First, draw 2 points to determine the width of the window, and then draw other structures according to the proportion. When drawing the flower cluster on the roof, just draw a rough outline. Don't worry about whether you draw it right or wrong. Just focus on the lines you are drawing and see if the lines are vivid and full of variations. You don't have to connect all the lines either, because broken lines give a more breathable feeling. This is the time for you to let your imagination run wild when drawing these curves. Just draw as freely and casually as possible. Since I'm starting to draw the flowers in the shaded part, I'm changing the pen to a black one. Actually, I really wanted to leave this part because I'm worried that you will find it boring when you see me repeatedly drawing the same things. I have left out a lot of details on the windowsill. I have also skipped quite a few details of the part against the wall on the left. I painted the flowers, plants, and the flower pot on the left in a very abbreviated way, just briefly touching on them. Because I think I can spend more time and effort depicting the plants in the front right. Now I've changed the pan to a brown one again. I don't want a stone floor in the front to stand out too much, so I use brown to reduce the contrast. You can also choose to continue using the black pan. It may not have much of an impact. The coloring is basically flat painting. Just make sure that your brush is fully soaked with water. Just apply the paint to the roof like this, and pay attention to leaving some small spaces. Mix a little burnt sienna with the previously used small amount of orange color. You can also see that I seldom use a very clean palette. Then you just need to add some water to get a slightly lighter color. You can already see that I didn't fill the entire roof with color. Instead, I left a lot of gaps, which makes it look more layered. Mix a little burnt sienna with a little black to paint the shady parts of the flowers and the window. At this moment, what remains on the palette are some olive green and grayish blue colors. You can also mix Payne's gray with a little middle yellow and sap green to get such a warm tone, dark gray. The shadow of the chimney is a slightly lighter cool gray. This color is equivalent to a mixture of burnt sienna with a little grayish blue. Mix a little burnt sienna with the gray on the palette to paint the shady part of the warm color roof. This is a powder blue color. It's not the watercolor from the Winsor Newton brand. It's the solid watercolor paint that I used before. I didn't use it up and have kept it until now. When you draw these green leaves, remember to leave some space for the flowers. This process basically involves dotting the colors on. You can get this bright yellow-green color by adding a little middle yellow to emerald green. I dotted it on the upper part of the flower cluster. The light green color of the previous layer hasn't dried yet, so when the current yellow-green color is dotted on, there won't be a very distinct edge line. Now use the dark green color obtained by mixing black with green to paint the shady parts of the leaves. You can also dip the pen into Barbie pink and apply it directly. Now start drawing the window frame. I just mix the yellow on the palette with a little water, and then I can get a relatively light middle yellow. Then, by mixing the Barbie pink color used earlier, you can get a warmer light red color, which can be used to paint the wood of the windowsill and the flower basket. Then mix blue and gray to get a light grayish blue color, and use it to paint the shadow part on the edge of the window frame. Now I mix the ochre on the palette with gray to get a warm gray color, and use it to draw the structural lines on the window frame. Actually, this step can be omitted. Mix olive green with a bit of the middle yellow that remains on the palette to get a warmer green color, and use it to paint the green leaves on the windowsill and in the flower basket. Dip a little middle yellow to paint the flowers in the pot. However, I don't plan to paint them in detail. I'm just adding a touch of color. Then mix the remaining yellow on the brush with emerald green on the palette to get a color similar to olive green, and continue to paint the other leaves. I also don't plan to paint the plants in the left corner of the wall in detail. I'll just add a few strokes of color. Then directly mix the dark green color on the palette to get a milder shade of dark green, and use it to paint the shady parts of the leaves. The part of the green plants already has a lot of layers, and now I'm basically painting the third layer of color. The current dark green color is even darker, and the resulting color contrast is more intense. You may have already noticed that watercolor paints look darker when they are wet, and they will become lighter after they dry. Since I added a bit of black just now, the current color almost looks like a shade of gray. Then I added a little bit of olive green. Now it's equivalent to painting a fourth layer of color. Add some ultramarine blue and mix it to create a cool tone green color. I didn't wash the brush. I directly mixed the amber color on the palette. If it feels dry, you can dip the brush in some water. Paint the shaded part of the eaves. You can mix a bit of black with sky blue and add more water to make the color lighter. This color is the cool tone green on the palette with a little water added. This is a purple-gray color. You can get it by adding more water to the purple color. I added a bit of Barbie pink to make it warmer. Actually, these greens are all pretty similar, because there were several green shades in the set of solid watercolor paints I used before, and I can't remember their names clearly. Later, when some of the colors ran out, I added some paints from Winsor and Newton. This grayish blue color is the one that was just used. Dilute it by adding some water. These warm grays were also randomly mixed on the palette by adding water. Now I'm using gouache paint because it has strong covering power, and I can directly paint it on to cover the original leaves. You can get a cool tone paint by mixing a bit of white with violet. Mix a vivid pink color and paint it on so that these flowers will have 3 layers. Now I'm using a gray color pencil to deepen the color.